Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage the Electric Glade Orchestra. The lights in the restaurant dimmed as the spotlight clung to the angelic form of the winged man walking across the stage. "That could be our man. I could rush him right now, grab him," Lee whispered. "Get a trace, right? He's one of them, the admin, but I don't reckon it's him. Don't know for sure anyway, and we need more than just him, right? Spec said it's best to get proof of something we can pin him down with. We ain't got enough yet, keep cool. Wait till you see what the first round of this game is, eh? You ain't gonna be disappointed." The angel's face was pale and his eyes glowed softly. He had sharp, jutting cheeks, a slim waist and huge, protruding shoulders. Sheets of muscle were pressing against the trim of his suit, forced out by powerful arms and legs. The applause grew louder than the music. The angel stretched out his wings and turned to face the ceiling. His wingspan was enormous. Everyone was in awe. It was a standing ovation from a table in the corner. Lee looked over and saw a man who seemed to be half twisted into an android, metallic arms and strange goggles on his face. Lee saw that every seat in the restaurant was now filled. People had seemed to appear out of nothingness, and every table was covered with a spread of fresh food, drink, and various smoking paraphernalia. "Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen," the angel said. He had no microphone, but his voice was effortlessly sharp and reaching. "Thank you sincerely so much for another gracious welcome. It is one of the harder parts of being an administrator, the endless applause." He smiled and winked at a table nearby, to another bout of clapping and some cheers. "No, really. Every time I come to the Royale, I remembered why it was that I helped craft it just a few cycles ago. It really was born of a labor of love, and I feel that in the room tonight. I know you're all keen to commence with tonight's events, and I promise you, those of you here as spectators will be granted an excellent view of everything that transpires. You'll be able to flip between the various stations during the event, though never further ahead than our leading team. As long as you stay in the ballroom for the duration of this introduction, your consciousness will automatically sync with the observation portal. Remember, if at any time you wish to leave, just call for a host and they will pull you back to your selected checkpoint. For those of you who have signed up to compete, I need remind you that there are different parameters in physical feedback, such as pain, discomfort that you may experience, and these are usually switched off. Also, if you die, you'll surface and have to manually dive to rejoin us. If you are killed by a competing opponent, you will awake disoriented and disqualified. This is Mortal Kombat, and you should be prepared for such. Now, with the formalities out of the way, shall we have a closer look at our first round and see what our teams have signed up for? There was an orchestra of loud applause from every table. The administrator fluttered his wings and walked towards the front of the stage. What we have tonight, ladies and gentlemen, is a search and rescue mission. An undercover hostile agent has taken the daughter of one of our most beloved administrators hostage. Before the event, we will not give you any clues to this hostile agent's identity. You will only know who the other competing teams are. And then remember, if you eliminate every other team, you still have to identify the target and rescue the young woman before the time is up. This means making physical contact with her. This is not a standard battle royale. This is a selection phase for the grand finale, and we want only contestants of quality to succeed. The administrator waved his hand forward, and a holographic projection of a train filled the entire room. Lee watched the vague figures of the audience, like dim reflections in a pool, as their shadows moved in and out of the ghostly projection of the train. Our contestants will be given 1 hour to assassinate the agent and rescue the young woman, the administrator said. All participants, apart from the contestants, are constructs, but will react to violence or intimidation. Still, anything goes, and the winners may get there by any means managed. So, who are our contestants, and who will you be backing tonight? First, we have Dr. Insidious. The man augmented with android upgrades and goggles looked out at the crowd. The robots surrounding him clapped.
Is there a doctor in the house?
He asked, smiling and waving as the spotlight fell on him. Remember, Doctor, only one automaton allowed. The Angel Administrator reminded him.
That's all I need.
The Doctor shouted back in reply. And we have the hitman Gage and his accomplice Caliber. The spotlight flickered over to Gage first. A man about 2 meters tall with a huge jawline, long black hair and the look of a killer. He was dressed in a military uniform. Caliber next to him was half his height, wearing glasses, his hair cut short and blonde. Are you still basking in the glory of that shot that stole the audience's heart, Gage? The Administrator asked. How far back from that convoy were you when you took down that target?
2 miles.
Gage boomed in a voice like a subterranean monster. Yeah, and who do you think misdirected that convoy? Caliber added. Yes, a team effort, I'm sure. And this time we are welcoming in 2 fresh new contestants. Illinois Slim, the roughest mobster in town, and the hard-bitten, hard-biting, hard-drinking Valentino Lee, hottest PI on the block. Gong took the cigar from his mouth and gave them a grin. He kissed the air, smiled, and welcomed in the applause like he was born for it. Lee took a sip from his hip flask and gave the crowd an awkward smile. Last but not least, what about these 2 high priests of our beloved cult of Gaia, the Magneto sisters, known for their cunning, guile, and magic? The spotlight showed identical twin sisters with pale faces, short purple hair, strange eyes, and expressions twisted in serpentine grins. Don't get too close to those, ladies and gentlemen, or you'll be serving them on your knees. The mission no more than a distant memory. The sisters looked around them. One of them gave Gong a piercing look. We're gonna have to watch out for them. Gong whispered out the side of his mouth, his cigar still dangling. Mess with our heads or something, I reckon. They got some trick the others in, I can feel it. And there we have it, folks, the Administrator said. 4 teams of worthy contestants, an admirable mission, and 1 hour to save the day. Who is your money on? Who is your heart with? And whose footsteps will you be treading? It's the selection round for the grand finale here tonight at the Royale. You are all cordially invited to the show of a lifetime every night, every day, every moment. Let's get ready to play. The gilded ceiling began to peel back like a layer of elastic light. The murals and doorways were replaced by a seamless sky, leaning over a train station. Lee felt a slight chill, heard the call of a steam train whistle, and found he was standing outside on the station platform. He and Gong were under the gaze of a great clock, a countdown dial of 60 minutes beginning with giant brass hands.
Gentlemen, may I take you to carriage 4?
A host asked.
No need to present your tickets, we have been expecting you.
Sure, you got it, Gong said. There was a hurrying bustle all along the platform as people began to climb the steep ladders to their compartments. After another calling of the train whistle, a heavy cloud of smoke drifted along the platform. Gong clambered up, and Lee followed him. There was a carpeted passageway on the left, looking out on high, gleaming windows. The compartments were on their right, their room the first by the entranceway door. They sat opposite each other. Gong leaned forward, his massive body filling the compartment. We got an audience, he said. That means we need to focus and not let slip anything we don't want letting slip. I got it, Lee said. I know. Good, because if you're thinking what I'm thinking, this event matters a lot more than either of us first thought, especially the girl, Gong said, looking towards the window. The train began to tremble and spring into life like a slumbering giant roused from a dream. Everything chugged and clanked. The voices of other passengers walking by sounded in a strange chorus. The platform began slipping away. If the sisters are going to be the hardest to deal with, Caliber and Gage are coming in shooting, Lee said. They'll try and take us out quick, I reckon. What do you think? Reckon you're right, Gong said. But we ain't packing nothing. Lee checked his ankle brace, then inside his suit, but both guns were gone. Yeah, I got nothing, he said. Part of the game, Gong said. Reckon you could take Gage? Yeah, could try, but don't fancy it. Guy looks like a monster. Come on, you could take him. I'll handle Caliber. Maybe, fuck, Gong said. I don't know, man. Nah, we need some advantage. Now, this thing ain't some regular train, right? It's all part of the game. So they're gonna bury things around, yeah? Like clues, weapons, treacherous characters and all that, right? This is as much entertainment for the audience as anything. Yeah, you're right. They're gonna have something on board to like mix things up. There'll be a soldier or a cop or someone sleeping next to a rifle or something. Yeah, exactly, Gong said. Or it could be this train is carrying some weapon for the army or something. Like they got a whole secret compartment at the back. Yeah? They let the audience see it, don't they? Build up the tension while they're waiting to see which team finds it first. Could be, Lee said. That Dr. Freak or whatever his name was, right? He ain't in no rush. He's gonna bide his time. He's gonna try and let us hotheads blast each other away, then clamber over our corpses to the open goal. Maybe we could talk him around to a temporary allegiance, Lee said. He wouldn't trust us. Of course he won't. We don't trust him, but we'd have an advantage over the others, wouldn't we? Like, if we pool our strength, we could thin out the competition. It's like warfare, like divide and conquer sort of thing. Yeah, that Dr. Freak, you reckon? Dr. Insidious? Sure, whatever. This whole thing fucking ridiculous. Look, we ain't gonna last long with Gage and the fucking hair man or whatever his sidekick was, right? We don't want anything to do with those bloody witches either, right? They got fucking real magic or something. I can feel it. Alright, we'll keep the Doctor in mind as an ally, but we need to figure out this train, right? Like, things are gonna go down in the dining car or the observation deck. That's always how it is. I think all we got behind is more passenger cars, Gong said. Let's follow the train the whole way through, right? If we see Gage, you go for the hairy man. I mean, just fucking lunge at him, right? The sooner those two are dead, the better. What if we see those witches, those sisters? Lee asked. Oh, I ain't sure yet, but don't stop, they'll try and draw us in, Gong said. Don't speak to him either, right? Don't let him get behind us, yeah? Gong stood up and began to make his way down through the train carriage. The train rocked and swayed as they picked up speed. They rose up sharply, then swung atop a cliff edge. The ocean shone through the windows, blinding them for a moment. Keep your eyes out for a weapon as well, Gong said, turning back to Lee. Just keep quiet and guarded. Look for any suspicious characters. You got a better nose for that sort of thing, but keep 2 eyes out for Gage, yeah? Notice how you're the lead man down here, eh? Lee said. I was always the alpha, Gong said and stepped into the corridor. The train shook. Lee put out a hand to steady himself. The doors between the train cars were heavy and clunky. As soon as they stepped between the carriages, the scream of the wind and the pounding air lashed at them for a moment before they crossed. In the car next to theirs, some of the berth doors were open. An elderly man with a newspaper and a pipe was sat alone reading. Next to him was a family with children jumping on one of the folded-out beds, the father trying and failing to keep them calm. The last door was closed. They crossed into another car. This time a host in a uniform was in the first berth, in front of a control panel, dropping a tea bag into his mug. Everything to your liking so far, gentlemen? The host in a conductor's uniform asked. It's perfect, Gong said and leaned closer to him, looking around the cramped compartment. Should inform me both that 5 minutes have now passed. All 8 contestants are still active and no one has discovered the agent. We're working on it, he said. Give us a minute. What you got back there? Just a general clutter of work, gentlemen. I should also inform you that aside from overt event updates, I cannot assist you in any way. Gong punched the host so hard the bones in his face cracked with a sound like a stick breaking. Blood splashed on the opposite wall and his teeth were cast like dice being shot from his mouth. Come in quickly and close the door, Gong said. Lee looked down at the twitching figure and felt sick. It's a construct, alright? They told us that. I know, Lee said, but it didn't change the repulsion he felt. He pulled the door closed behind them as they struggled to stand up inside. Gong rushed through the conductor's things and looked up at the shelves. Yeah, this'll do for a start. And passed Lee a steel baton. Still remember how to handle it, yeah? Gong asked, wrapping the clasp on his wrist and holding the stick under his forearm. Yeah, I got it, Lee said, taking the other baton. Back of the head, hard as you can, or at the nose, elbows or knees. Like we're back at the academy, Lee said. This is so strange. I think I'm starting to get into it, Gong said, propping the unconscious conductor up against the wall. Lee walked back into the corridor. They trod softly past the closed doors of several private berths. Lee heard raised voices coming from a cabin on the left. He stopped and crept closer to the door, checking that his reflection wasn't visible in the glass. Go and get me that host mug, he whispered to Gong. Gong went back into the host cabin and returned with the mug. It was still warm. Lee placed it on the thin paneling of the compartment door and listened closely. I'll watch the other side, Gong whispered and stepped past him, waiting by the carriage doors, the baton in his grasp. The voices had softened. Then suddenly there was a sound like someone choking in pain.
Told you, we can. It's not coded. You're gonna do what we ask and you're gonna do it right,
said a muffled voice.
We are not permitted. Anything goes, that's what the admin said. Now, you gotta run onto that observation deck and plead for help. You gotta tell them that the man who has you is in carriage 4, and you're worried he's not who he said he was. We're not coded to take such an active role in the event. You're gonna do it, and you're gonna like it,
said the voice again. Lee recognized it as Gage. The sound of the other moving in there must have been Caliber. Lee lowered the mug and stepped past the door as lightly as he could. But just as he was trading towards Gong, the train rattled and the door slid open just a notch, and he caught sight of Gage, his hand around the neck of a young woman. The door slid closed just as suddenly. Had they seen him? Lee wondered. It had happened so fast. What's going on? Gong asked quietly as Lee stepped next to him. Caliber and Gage, Lee whispered. They're trying to stage a diversion or something. Get one of the passengers to play the victim like a fake decoy and lead them to our cabin. Not a bad play, Gong whispered. They've gone quiet. Yeah, they might have seen me. The door slid slightly open. Gong grabbed his baton tight and took a deep breath. Were they armed? He asked. Couldn't see. Don't think so. Gage had his hand on the construct's neck. Like, if they'd been armed, he probably would have had a gun on it, right? Maybe, Gong said. What are we gonna do? Lee asked. What are we gonna do? Gong repeated, stepping forward, holding up his baton. We're gonna take 'em, that's what.